Okay, so let's start. Um, every subject starts with a problem. Only reason a subject exists is because of a problem that needs to be solved, that needs to be studied. And the same is the case for economics. And for in the case of economics, we have this one problem which we refer to as the basic economic problem. The basic economic problem. Every economy, whether it be local, whether it be global, every economy in the world does go through the basic economic problem. So, going into some details, let's differentiate between these two terms: needs versus wants. Needs are something that a need is something that is a necessity, and it is something that we cannot actually survive without. An example could be water. A very prime example could be water, food, shelter. All these things are categorized as a need. On the other hand, when we talk about wants, a want could be defined as a luxury or something that we desire for. It is obviously something that we can survive without, we can live without. Example could be, let's say, a Rolex, a prime example. A Rolex, an iPhone, or a luxury car. These are all wants. Moving on, coming back to the basic economic problem. So, in this case, a consumer is never satisfied. In let's talk about us. When we are desiring something, when we desire something, and once we get it, the satisfaction, it is something that is never ending. We are never satisfied. No matter what we get, we will always be demanding something else. We will always be wanting something else. Um, let's take an example. If we buy an iPhone 13, once we buy it, the you know the want is going to settle, and then you're going to want an iPhone 14, then an iPhone 15. It keeps going on. These wants are unlimited. So we always the problem always starts with the wants that the consumer the consumer's wants are unlimited. Wants exceed the amount of resources available. The wants are more than the resources. The resources are limited, finite, and the wants are unlimited. So, in other words, we could say wants are unlimited and resources are limited. And this problem leads to the word scarcity. This develops scarcity when there are unlimited wants and we aren't able to fulfill those wants and the resources are limited. Scarcity forms. Now, moving on, Let's look at the economic resources. The economic resources are basically called the factors of production in economics. All these things are necessary to produce something. Let's Let me make something. Just give me a second. All right. So this side is going to be for the factor payment. I'm going to explain this in a bit. This side is going to be for the factors of production themselves. So, right. Just give me a second. Factor payment and factors of production. Moving on to the first one, which is called land. We always define land as the natural resource, or we could also call it the gifts of nature. Land in normal terms is physical land, but in economics, land is a broader term. It relates to the gifts of nature. Examples could be coal. Anything that is produced naturally is going to come under land in the factors of production. Example could be coal. Coal is formed naturally. Another example could be gas, mountains. Anything that comes to mind that is natural is land. A very important thing, animals are also categorized as land because they are also a natural resource. Someone else didn't, I mean, just like land is created by themselves, animals are created by themselves too. So this was all about land. Let's move on to the second factor of production, which is called labor. Labor is defined as human human resource, or we could say they put in physical and mental effort to produce something. Example could be obviously workers and employees. Let's move on to the third factor of production, which is called capital. Capital and in economics, it is defined as a human-made resource. Human-made resource used to produce other resources. Let me explain it with an example. Example could be a machine. A machine is created by a human, and that same machine is used to create something else. This is what the definition tells us. So machines are created by humans, and these machines are used to create something else. Um, example of another example could be a factory. A factory is also created by humans, but in that factory, other resources are also produced, right? Um, More examples could be roads and buildings. Same explanation for these ones as well. Let me extend the line. All right. The fourth and the last factor of production is called enterprise. Enterprise, when we define it, it is called the risk taking ability. Someone who combines all factors of production is called an entrepreneur, right? Um, for example, a businessman, he hires labor, he buys land, and he gets all the necessary machinery required to, um, you know, start the business. And lastly, when he combines all these factors of production, he, excuse me, yes. So someone who combines all the factors of production, he hires labor, land, capital, and then combines them all, is called an entrepreneur. And he takes the risk to combine. He could lose it all. He could lose all that he's invested, but he still takes the risk. So this as a whole is called the enterprise. Now let's move on to the factor payment of all of these factors of production. What is a factor payment? Any kind of reward that you receive from that factor of production. Let's say, let's start with land. For land, the factor payment is rent. You pay rent for the land you use, right? Labor. For the labor you hire, you pay them wages. This is the reward they get. So wages is the factor payment for labor. Next, in capital. The factor payment for capital is interest. Lastly, for enterprise, obviously for an entrepreneur, the reward is always profit. So this is the factor payment for enterprise. Moving on to our next subtopic, which is called the opportunity cost. Now, talking about the basic economic problem, when we talk about it, when there are unlimited wants and limited resources, there is scarcity. And that scarcity leads to choices. You have to make choices in order to cater to the unlimited wants and the finite resources. Scarcity leads to choices. You have to make choices, and then the concept of opportunity cost comes. Opportunity cost is defined as the next best alternative foregone. Um, I'll explain this with examples so that it is a little clear. Every economy has economic agents, and those economic agents make decisions or choices in the economy, because obviously the there's this basic economic problem that they have to cater to. Now let's list down these economic agents. The first economic agent that we have um, is the consumers, or we could say the individuals. The second economic agent that we have is the firms, and the last one is the government. All these three are economic agents that make decisions or choices in the economy. Let's say an individual has a choice of buying an Xbox or a PS5. Let's say the individual decides to buy the PS5. The opportunity that he lets go of, he could have gotten benefits from this Xbox that he let go of. That the opportunity that he let go of is called the opportunity cost, and he let go of the Xbox, so we list the Xbox as the opportunity cost for the consumer. Moving on to the firms. Let's say the firm has two choices: one, to produce clothes; two, to produce cars. Let's say the consumer decides to produce clothes. What will be the opportunity cost for the consumer here? The consumer lets go of the benefits of producing cars, the profit he could have, the profit the firm could have generated from producing the cars. He's letting go of that. They are letting go of that. So the opportunity cost for the firm is cars. They could have produced cars and generated profit from them, but instead they chose to produce clothes. So the next best alternative foregone is the cars. Government could have two options: one, to invest on healthcare; two, to invest on education. Let's say the government decides to invest on education. The opportunity cost of investing in education is healthcare. Why? Because the government could have spent that investment on healthcare, and the economy could have benefited from that investment, but instead the government decided to invest in education. The alternative foregone for the government is healthcare. So these were the two basic topics that we cover in economics. This was a little, what do you say? This was a little demo for you guys to decide if you want to continue and join for this upcoming session. Um, I hope that you roughly understood the concept of what economics is basically about. It's basically about the basic economic problem right now. So, we'll obviously be doing this extensively in our actual classes. So, hope to see you guys there.